Welcome to the Leadership Lounge, a place to kick back and listen as our experts dissect some of the biggest questions leaders face today. I'm Emma Coombe, Leadership Advisor in our London office. Today, we're talking about family enterprise leadership. These businesses are the backbone of economies around the world, but their leaders face an increasingly critical challenge: how to preserve their organisation's legacies in a fast-changing world. So, in today's episode, I'm excited that we're exploring how family enterprise leaders can successfully balance preservation and progress. How can leaders maintain what made their organisation successful while adapting to a new business landscape? And what are the top issues that leaders will need to think about if they are to continue to thrive across generations? Before we dive in, remember to share any burning questions you want our experts to answer by emailing redefiners@russellreynolds.com. We look forward to hearing from you, and we'd love your feedback on these episodes. If you enjoy listening, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. So, let's dive into the topic. Our first guest in the Leadership Lounge today is Justus O'Brien, Leadership Advisor in Russell Reynolds Associates Stamford office and Global Leader of RRA's Family Enterprise Advisory Practice. Justus, welcome to the Leadership Lounge. It's great to have you back.
Thanks, Emma. It's great to be here.
So, Justus, how do successful family enterprises maintain their core values while adapting to market changes?
What we've observed with family businesses that have flourished over generations is how central the value system is to those businesses. Our view is that companies that focus on the values as opposed to a set of rules tend to thrive and tend to be able to pass on those values from one generation to the next. Good companies engage the next generation and engage them in the strategy and strategy development. They make them participate in that. So that's a way in which, family-owned businesses can strike the right balance between continuity, enduring values, and refreshing their strategy and refreshing their thinking. By bringing in the next generation, you bring in new thinking, which, in a sense, helps bring that business into the present tense and eventually into the future, as opposed to being firmly rooted in the past of the business.
I think that's a great point, Justus, about family enterprise. It's key to strike the right balance between protecting the family's values, what makes it a really special way to work and somewhere that has been delivering value over many, many years, whilst also having permission to evolve, to transform, to not have to stick to a set of rules that it's always been done in a certain way. It's fascinating to advise on these kind of topics and how the right balance can be struck. I'd now like to introduce our second guest into the lounge, Anupama Puranik. She's a leadership advisor in Russell Reynolds Associates Singapore office and advises family enterprises throughout Asia. Anu, welcome to the Leadership Lounge.
Thank you, Emma. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Anu, Justus just highlighted the importance of engaging the next generation to ensure family enterprises continue to thrive and evolve. But this isn't always easy and can cause tension to bubble to the surface of family enterprises. Can you talk a bit about this tension and why it arises?
We are at a very important time in the evolution of family businesses around the world, especially here in Asia. And as we all know, any change management that happens creates a lot of tension within organizations, and that's no different for family businesses. So we often see a lot of strife happening at the time when families are either going through a generational shift. So the next generation is stepping in as the leaders are perhaps planning their journey out, but haven't necessarily gotten there. We could have a situation where new family members, cousins, in-laws, etc., are getting added to the business. Or we have a whole bunch of new professional managers coming in with absolutely new ideas. And you put all of this together in an environment that's rapidly changing because of digitalization, because of sustainability issues, because of environmental factors. It starts creating a lot of different opinions within the organizations. And you start seeing that tension coming up within the families themselves as well.
I completely agree, Anu. A family enterprise isn't just a company, but a family legacy that often spans generation. When the market demands change, the thought of transforming what's been carefully crafted over decades can sometimes feel incredibly hard for family leaders. But change they must. Keeping pace with transformation can be the difference between whether a family enterprise can endure across generations or not. Interestingly, our research has found that just 43% of family enterprise leaders globally say their organisation is ahead of their competitors on innovation. And only a further 43% say their leadership team feels prepared to address the threat of technological change at their family enterprise in the coming year. So, Annie, what advice would you give to family enterprise leaders who are struggling with transformation?
Emma, I think as organizations are going through this transformation, especially family businesses, it is extremely important for them to reflect on whether this is a transformation on their brands and the family values, or is it really about the business context? And often when the older generation and the younger generation sit together to discuss this, the lines get blurred. So the important part is have that very open and honest conversation. When the shift is about adapting to the new business context, to the environment, to the new ways of doing business, and de-alienating that from the original brand and value proposition of the organization, those conversations get a lot easier.
So the key is finding that distinction between what is needed to transform. When leaders can separate strategic business changes from the fundamental identity of the family enterprise, it often removes a lot of the emotional barriers to progress. For family enterprises struggling with transformation, in my experience, having an independent chair or independent non-executive directors can really make the world of difference, particularly if there's a non-family member as CEO. It means that a CEO isn't so isolated. There's a conduit, a sounding board, a trusted independent advisor between them and the family members, and it can be a very effective construct. Justus, I'd like to turn back to you. Aside from innovation and transformation, what are the other critical leadership challenges that family enterprise leaders will need to confront to thrive across generations?
I mean, the one thing we hear consistently as we talk to family businesses around the world is the importance of thinking about succession. And it doesn't matter whether it's first generation, second generation, or even more evolved family businesses that have professional management in place. It's critically important not to delay CEO succession. It's not something people generally want to deal with unless they're in a crisis mode. And if there's good leadership in place, there's a natural tendency to sort of put that off. You need to start this work early. And only by starting early can you think through what the needs of the business are going to be in terms of your leadership requirements, and really start thinking about who you've got internally. Start to plan, put together development plans for those individuals with enough time for them to really realize their full potential. And through those activities, be ready for that eventuality of having to switch out a CEO. And so that's one of the things we try to do with our generation and our family enterprise advisory work is help clients through each of those steps. And it's not complicated in design, but it's extremely nuanced in execution.
It's a critical part, Justus, of the service that we offer to clients. And it's understanding how to run a really thoughtful process where everybody feels considered, developed, listened to, that things can go smoothly. And when it comes to family enterprises, we know that each of them operates in a very unique way with unique relationships. Independent advisors, such as my brilliant colleagues, can help these relationships and family harmony across generations while ensuring that businesses continue to thrive. I'd now like to introduce another guest into the Leadership Lounge to talk on this topic. Diego Esteban is a leadership advisor in Russell Reynolds Associates Barcelona office. Diego, welcome to the Leadership Lounge.
Thank you so much, Emma, for inviting me to this conversation, and certainly my favorite subject.
So, Diego, Justus mentioned that succession is one of the most critical leadership challenges that family enterprises need to confront. And our research supports this, as we found that 32% admitted their approach to succession was reactive rather than proactive. Can you talk through any other challenges that family enterprises will need to confront to continue to thrive?
Yeah, I totally agree that leadership succession is probably the biggest challenge. This is not something that you can improvise. This a lot of conversations, a lot of assessment of the talent available inside and outside, and a lot of preparation and development. Another of the areas where we see huge differences between the different family enterprises is how they develop the next generation leaders within the family. You see some of them that grow within the company, some of them go to fancy business schools, but in most of the cases, you don't see a tailor-made development program to face the challenges today and of the future of the company. This requires a lot of time and effort. And this should be very tailor-made programs for each of the components of the family and the roles they're going to play.
I think you're right there, Diego. It's critical for family enterprises to create personalized development paths. After all, leading a family enterprise is more than preserving what you've built. It's about continuously looking forward and planning for the future and being able to bring the outside in. So having those external experiences, having mentors from other industries or on the board is so critical in my mind. It's about being comfortable, having brave conversations with family members about their own development and how you can best set them up for success. We know that when family enterprises fail to develop their most talented leaders, they risk letting them walk out of the door. Our research, in fact, found that 71% of leaders in family enterprises said they're likely to consider moving organisations, with 36% citing career advancement as their primary motivation. We'd now like to welcome our final guest into the lounge, Peter Gramkov. Peter is a leadership advisor in Russell Reynolds Associates' Copenhagen office. Peter, welcome to the Leadership Lounge.
Thank you very much for having me.
Peter, what skills and mindsets will the next generation of family enterprise leaders need?
So one key skill that I think leaders need is a strong emotional intelligence, EQ. So you need to understand what is going on in the family. You need to understand the values. And this also spans several generations. So this can actually be that you work with the older siblings and the next generation is coming in. So really try to understand the different requirements, the different needs that a family wants.
I think getting to the heart of what makes a family tick is indeed critical, Peter. In every family, there will naturally be a complex web of relationships, traditions, and emotional connections to get to grips with. And larger family enterprises will have different setups in terms of boards of trustees, family boards, different delegated sets of responsibilities, and understanding the interplay between these is also really important. Annie, I know you wanted to talk about another skill, the importance of being an active listener in a family enterprise.
A lot of times, people react the way they do because they feel like they haven't been heard. And if this next generation can spend that little extra time listening to their stakeholders, understanding where they're coming from, and then using those guidelines to decide what that business context goes, where it goes from here, they will find it a lot easier to bring that change which they want to bring within the business.
And this point, Annie, ties really nicely to Diego's point about the importance of thoughtful career planning and development. Educating family members on what's happened in the past, where the business is now, and where it wants to go in the future from much earlier on in their career, setting up appropriate forums to do that, does allow new family members who are onboarding to really understand the legacy as well as what they're tackling in the here and now. I think what you have all stressed here with these skills and mindsets is that it's a careful balancing act. Successful family leaders will know when to be bold and challenge the status quo and when to stand back and listen. I also think it's critical that a leader can be adaptive and can pivot, especially given how volatile the business landscape is today. This will help your family enterprise remain competitive and resilient. This has already been a really insightful session, but before I let you go, I'd like to close this episode with your thoughts on what the future holds for family enterprise leadership, either globally or in the regions each of you advise in. Justus, over to you first.
Family businesses afford the opportunity for leaders to think through the long-term benefits of a strategy and deploy the resources as needed without those pressures of short-term gains or results. So I think family-owned businesses will continue to attract top-level talent who find that to be a very favorable environment in which to lead.
So Emma, the Asian family enterprises are now coming of age and they're making their mark in their world as they grow out of their local markets. While they're younger families compared to the US and European families, probably in their second or third generation at best, these families are growing in a world that is rapidly digitizing. And so their growth trajectory and the speed of growth is way faster than what you might have seen in other families from other parts of the world.
With family enterprises, we're going to see best-in-class corporate governance. What they require from the boards is not only for approval, but it's much more consultative. People that provides advice and helping and coaching members of the family. So we believe that you're going to see the best evolution in corporate governance and new trends coming from family enterprises.
The future of family enterprises is bright. I think we are seeing a professionalization taking place already now. I see the families becoming more digital savvy. I see them becoming more global in their mindset. I see them becoming more proactive in the way they're handling, among other, succession planning. And then sustainability and ESG is also playing an increasing part.
Thank you so much to each of you for sharing your perspectives today. I hope it's given our listeners an insight into life as a family enterprise leader and the obstacles they may face. In 30 seconds, this is what we've learned. First, successful family enterprises thrive by focusing on enduring values over fixed rules or managing the status quo. Creating a foundation that allows both stability and evolution across generations is the way forward. Having a clear distinction between business transformation and core family values enables leaders to drive necessary change while preserving meaningful legacy. Proactive succession planning is critical. The most successful family enterprises develop their next generation of leaders systematically and early, including their family members, not in response to crisis. Exceptional family enterprise leaders combine strong business acumen with emotional intelligence, active listening, and the confidence to challenge constructively. If you work for a family enterprise, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And likewise, if you have any topics or burning questions you'd like us to cover in future episodes of Leadership Lounge, then get in touch. Email your questions to redefiners@russellreynolds.com. And if you've enjoyed listening to this episode, leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can find us on LinkedIn and follow us on X @RRA on Leadership. You can also find us on Instagram @Redefiners Podcast. And you can now subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, goodbye.